On this week's episode of Whether or Not, we will be springing into some nature in the news stories that will be discussing the National Cherry Blossom Festival, along with a story about a fireball reaching Earth's atmosphere. And Matt Hoenig has a feature for you about how CATA prepares for Pennsylvania weather. All that and more, Whether or Not starts right now. Hi everyone, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Jordyn Jenna.
And I'm your forecaster, Patrick Wright.
So Patrick, we saw the first day of spring on Wednesday. So what can you tell us about coming up for our spring weather?
Well, for the next couple of days, it's not going to feel much like spring because we do have a chance for a few flurries here and there. But I do see some warmer temperatures around the horizon, so I'll get into those numbers coming up later on in the program.
Okay, it's a little depressing. Up next, nature in the news. This past Wednesday, March 20th, marked the first day of spring. Spring marks the event of the vernal equinox when both the northern and southern hemispheres will have the same amount of daylight. For those in the northern hemisphere, daylight will continue to increase until the summer solstice, which falls on June 21st this year. For those living in the southern hemisphere, the vernal equinox exposes the beginning of autumn. Specifically, the equinox will take place at 5:58 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when the sun directly lines up with the equator. Because the Earth is tilted, there are changing lengths of daylight hours throughout the year, and this is why we have an equinox, or other described as seasons. The tilt of the Earth is what gives us seasons. Half of the year, the North Pole is pointed towards the sun. The other half of the year, the South Pole sees more of the sun. Equinox itself means equal light. So this past Wednesday, we experienced 12 hours of light along with 12 hours of night.
The final images from the Mars rover Opportunity were released recently. The picture is a panorama which includes 354 images taken between May 13th and June 10th, 2018. The images were taken in 3 different wavelengths of light, one near the infrared range, another in green, and another in violet. The pictures depict the final resting spot of the rover in the Perseverance Valley, located on the western rim of the Endeavour crater on Mars. Some of the frames remain in black and white due to a lack of time to apply the other filters before a global Martian sandstorm enveloped the solar-powered rover on June 10th. The Opportunity rover mission was declared complete by NASA on February 13, 2019, after over 1,000 commands were sent since August of 2018, in an attempt to restore communication. Over the course of 15 years, the Opportunity rover has gathered invaluable information about the geology and environment of the red planet, all of which will help lay the groundwork for future Mars missions, both robotic and manned.
Do you remember hearing about the huge fireball that exploded over the Russian Barents Sea in December? No? Well, neither did I. Apparently, the space rock's grand entrance into Earth's atmosphere did not receive much recognition because of the location where it exploded. Regardless of its lack of fame, the fireball had the second largest blast of its kind. Not only did the fireball break records, but it also had 10 times the energy released by the Hiroshima atomic bomb. A fireball is only expected to be this big 2 to 3 times every 100 years. The space rock flew into Earth's atmosphere with a speed of 20 miles per second. The fireball went unnoticed because of lack of monitoring over the water. Military satellites had picked up the blast and notified NASA of the event. The significance of this event shows that larger flying objects can come into contact with Earth's surface without anyone having any preconceived notion of it happening. Monitoring is continuing to be developed to improve specific problems such as these.
The National Cherry Blossom Festival is just around the corner. With an average of 1.5 million people visiting each year, it is time to start planning a visit. The National Park Service, which manages the National Mall in Washington, D.C., is predicting the peak bloom to occur between April 3rd and April 6th. However, much like weather forecasting, peak bloom prediction is not an exact science on a large time scale. The National Park Service states that predicting the peak bloom over 10 days out is almost impossible. The buds are highly delicate and depend on the weather conditions leading up to the bloom itself. In 2017, a freeze killed off many of the buds before they get open to their full bloom. The peak bloom is defined when 70% of the Yoshino blossoms are open around the tidal basin of the National Mall. The Cherry Blossom Festival itself has occurred since the 20th century and celebrates the close relationship between the United States and Japan. Well, spring is officially here, but for the first couple of days, Mother Nature has a different story in mind. And with that said, well, Mother Nature has the possibility to pull in some snow on the backside of the system as temperatures will be dropping because we will be having some of those winds further coming from the north on our Friday, but that will move out pretty quickly as we head throughout the day. And then Saturday leaving us a pretty mild day, not above average temperatures, but we will be slightly below average, but we do expect a, for the most part, dry yet mild day as we head into the day on Saturday. Now, in terms of our forecast for Sunday, well, it is going to feel a lot more like spring as the high pressure builds in further, and we do see mainly sunny throughout most of the day, and therefore temperatures will be rising into the mid-50s for most here in Pennsylvania. So what do those numbers look like for us? Well, Friday, we do expect a high of 46 degrees, a chance for some AM flurries, but that will all depend on how much moisture is left behind the system as it moves on out and whether or not it gets caught in that cold air. Now, in terms of Friday night, we do expect a low of 26 degrees under a generally mostly cloudy sky. Now, moving into Saturday, well, we do raise the temperatures just a little bit up to 48 degrees under a partly cloudy sky. So generally partly cloudy, so it'd be a decent day to get out and do some stuff, but Sunday will be your better day to get outside and enjoy it. It won't be like this picture behind here, but a high of 57 degrees and enjoy the glorious sunshine as we wrap up the weekend and begin next week. Coming up next, Matt has a feature on your CATA bus and how they prepare for Pennsylvania weather.
You've seen their iconic red and white buses travel all over the State College region. They help you commute and even allow Penn State students to ride for free on loops and links. The Center Area Transportation Authority, better known as CATA, has a lot of challenges when it comes to transporting thousands of people on a daily basis. One of those challenges is how to operate when the weather turns severe. There are many factors and situations that CATA has to prepare for. I sat down with Jordyn, the operations manager at CATA, and Jacqueline Sheeter, CATA's public relations specialist, to discuss just how the public transit company is able to operate.
We do actually see an increase in ridership during whenever weather is bad, and especially whenever you're talking more of the rural routes or the smaller routes, because there are a lot of people on those routes who choose to drive or it's not the student corridors, which we already have kind of a certain capacity on. But whenever you look at the routes where people have other options, they choose to leave their car at home that day and take public transportation. So yes, we do see an increase. It's not a big increase, but it's a small increase.
Yeah, I live out in Bollesburg, so I see that a lot. So I'll drive to work every day, but if it snows, I'm the first one on the bus, and I can tell there's a lot more riding on those days as well.
In general, we do not change our operations. I can tell you that whenever weather is severe enough, we will not run on time. We will run late, or we're doing our best all the time. But in general, we do not adjust based on weather alone. Now, last year, or actually the last 2 years, Penn State is actually closed for a couple days or closed for the bulk of a day. And we realized that we do not need to have all of the buses that we would normally have out on a given day.
If Penn State is closed, CATA may stop running its campus routes, such as the Blue Loop and the White Loop. It will continue to run its community service routes in order to get those who are not affiliated with the university where they need to be. They may be able to use those extra buses to assist the community service routes and maintain a decent schedule.
And of course, safety is our biggest concern in severe weather. So hence the reasons why we're running late, because we're taking our time, we're being safe with everyone. So we always appreciate everyone's patience during those times.
As we attempt to keep schedules, at the same time, drivers also know that there is no need, especially given the safety concern, to maintain a schedule. The state and local townships do a really good job of trying to clear all the major corridors first, which is where we run a majority of the time. At the same time, we do also run secondary corridors, which are not cleaned or taken care of as well. So our drivers in the moment will contact dispatch. They'll let them know either I can't serve this section of a route, I may have to delay running at this time. And we've done that. We have parked buses for a period of a half hour, an hour, until we know that there's treatment being placed on the roadways.
CATA asks, when the weather isn't cooperating, riders should have patience and plan ahead, as buses will be behind schedule. After all, their top priority is your safety. For Weather or Not, I'm Matt Hoenig.
Well, after a wonderful weekend, or at least the latter half of the weekend on Sunday, we do expect a change in the pattern because, well, it is spring and we are in that roller coaster of temperatures and, well, precipitation. But first, let's recap what the weekend looks like. For Friday, we do expect a high of 46 degrees and a low of 26, but we do see a chance for those AM flurries. Again, it just depends on how much moisture is left in the air behind the system, behind the most previous system as it moves on out of our area. Now on Saturday, we do expect a high of 48, so temperatures increasing slightly, and then a low of 30 degrees under a generally partly cloudy sky. And then Sunday, that's going to be the glorious day with a high of 57 and a low of 32 under a generally mostly sunny sky. So get out and do some gardening that day, because that's going to be the best day to do it. Now in terms of our extended forecast for the next week, we do expect temperatures to remain roughly around average for this time of year, but it is going to be that temperature roller coaster in terms of precipitation, because we could see the chance for a few snow flurries as we head into the morning on Tuesday, but then we dry right back out just in time for the end of the week, but temperatures rising right before another system comes in on Friday, giving us a chance for some showers by next weekend, but overall temperatures rising by the end of the week.
So Patrick, Saturday's not really looking very spring-like, but Sunday is a bit of a different story.
Yeah, Sunday will be the better day to get out, do some gardening, some prep gardening for the upcoming season. But yeah, will get into spring for at least a day, but then we get on that roller coaster ride from flip-flopping with the colder temperatures to the warmer temperatures, which will be the pattern this week, or in the coming week. Therefore, by the end of the week, we'll warm back up, but we do see a chance for some showers moving in by the weekend.
So though it may not quite feel like spring, I'm still very excited for it to come.
Yes, yeah, all the warm temperatures and flowers.
Yeah. Speaking of spring, for your Weather Whiz quiz question this week, how many days of spring are there in 2019? A, 87 days, B, 89 days, C, 91 days, or D, 92 days? And if you were thinking D, 92 days, then you would have been correct.
Earth's elliptical orbit has a chance to fluctuate Earth's seasons, therefore adding the chance for spring to fluctuate from 89 to 93 days as we head from year to year, and therefore different numbers in that range from year to year. Overall, I do enjoy the higher numbers of days within spring, because, well, it's spring, and I do enjoy that transition period before it gets all the oppressive stuff in summer.
Yes, it's a little bit of good transition, and I love the colors.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
Beautiful colors. So that's all for this week's episode of Weather or Not. I'm your host, Jordyn and Jenna.
And I'm your forecaster, Patrick Wright.
Have a nice night, guys.
Have a good one, everybody.